You are listening to the opening theme of The Awakening, a new astrological project that I have just published. The 2025 annual edition of Planet Waves, consisting of an ebook and 12 written readings and 12 audio readings. And I needed a way to characterize the sensation of awakening as I would prefer it to be, rather than the jolt, the alarm going off, the bell tolling. More as a gentle call coming from across the sea of consciousness, the sea of space, the space that surrounds us and connects us. Today is the Capricorn new moon, the official publication date of The Awakening, though it came out over the weekend. And I'm here to tell you about the new moon and some details that would not show up in any chart other than one that I cast, because these are not details that are normally considered, thought about, sought after by anyone that I know of in any form of commercial, published, popular astrology. Before I go there, I want to tell you a little bit about what I have created and making available to you with The Awakening. These are the 27th annual readings from Planet Waves. So it's 25 plus 2000 plus 1999. That comes out to 27. I need a formula to figure that out. The 0 year and all that. I make it difficult for me to actually have confidence in how many years I've been doing this. But this is the 27th go around. It's a completely new project every time, newly named, begun from scratch. I don't even read the old ones. I just start as if it was the first time doing this. And the end result of 3 months of nonstop writing, with plenty else going on in the world, but 3 months of nonstop writing on this one thread, train of thought, is 12 extended length readings that, if it matters, they're about 6,000 words each. That's 17 pages plus the chart plus illustrations. Though some go longer, and the grand finale is Pisces, which came out to about 26 pages or so. I kind of thought, all right, well, I've got Pisces going on. I'm going to make sure I say everything here that I might not have said anyplace else, and that's what I did. And so this has all been in production for weeks. The proofreaders had to proofread, basically a book-length project in a very short time. They all come with original photographs, most of them two, and the project comes with original music. I wrote the opening theme, and then Kristen Williams, who we'll be hearing more from and more about soon, wrote the mid and ending theme. That's called Sitting Still. That for me really set the tone of the readings, and for me gives them the feeling of a sanctuary, a safe place to call home in a very chaotic and painful world right now. And whenever I'm writing astrology, having done this now since the 1990s, I'm aware that I'm speaking into tremendous pain and confusion and a sense of uncertainty, but I've never seen or felt anything like is going on now. The sense that there really is no safe place, I think, is a vexing experience to have to live through. And people who should feel or might otherwise feel, perfectly safe, plenty of them are feeling like there is no safe place. And then there are a lot of folks who are having a hard time getting it through the day. By the way, speaking of that, we sent out the announcement last night of financial hardship pricing for this. It's a Planet Waves tradition to make sure that everyone is included. And so if you keep hearing these presentations and seeing the letters and the previews and all that, and you cannot afford it or you can't afford full price, write to us at cs@planetwaves.net. I want to open a special invitation to men to request assistance. We, men, are trained to never ask for help. I don't have that problem personally, but I'm aware of the intensity of the conditioning. The fact that Planet Waves ever happened and happens at all on a daily basis involves my ability to ask for help. Your help, the help of a wide diversity of people who support what I do. And so, whoever you are, if you need help, write to us, cs@planetwaves.net. Those of you who can afford full price, pay full price. It goes up Monday at 11:59 p.m. We've done a graduating price increase, and members and Backstage Pass or Astrology Pass holders are available for special discount pricing. If you're one of those people listening, write to me as well and let me know your status as a core member, Substack subscriber, or Backstage Pass holder. That's not called the Astrology Pass. We do our best to accommodate people individually. There's no robotics involved in Planet Waves. We're pretty good at AI and getting much better at this technology, but this is a human created project, Planet Waves, and The Awakening is a human created project in its entirety. There's not one whiff of artificial intelligence used in the creation of these readings. So the purpose of astrology, as I see it, is to provide a place of sanity, refuge, and also information to help you tune into your environment. I view astrology as a form of therapy, but I think more significantly, I view astrology as a form of environmental study, and that is the environment that we are in, which is society itself, the media environment that we're in, which we're all now part of the content of that environment. We are in the user as content stage of media history, so we're all experiencing ourselves as content. And then the internal environment of our minds and feelings. And it's my proposition that astrology is one of the few tools that can address the sensation of chaos that we are living with every single day. It seems to be worsening chaos. This is showing no signs of improving. The only thing that could possibly improve is your own response to what you're experiencing. The external stimulus is just going to get more and more intense. There's no one looking back to say, wow, what did that last whole wave of technology do? What's the, what's going to happen as a result of this next one? It's just one thing heaped on top of another. And the user as content is like you being a log put into the fireplace to burn. This is what essentially is being done. We live in a time when people have things they need to think through, work through, talk about, feel, but there is nearly no good therapy. I think even the concept of what therapy is has evaporated, especially when you see things like therapy by SMS text message. You cannot do therapy by SMS text message any more than you can do massage therapy by SMS text message. That's how ridiculous that is. And you also cannot do massage therapy remotely. And I do not believe that you can effectively do therapy remotely. Not the real thing, not the real learning curve. But what my readings offer is a way into that state of mind and an introduction to what the healing space might feel like. What it feels like to be in a trusting space. This is not easy to create. It has taken tremendous preparation, really my whole life, and then practicing many disciplines over many decades. I'm not that old of a guy. I'm only 60, but I began very young, fully committed to learning about and practicing my own spiritual journey. And what I bring to this work is the best that I've learned from therapy, both as a client, a student, and a teacher, what I've learned from homeopathy, what I've learned from my spiritual practice, which is largely A Course in Miracles, and what I have learned from practicing astrology. And my intent is to make all of this available to you in your home at a low cost. Even if you're paying full price, it's very modestly cost. There's no therapist worth going to that's going to charge less than $200 a session. That is far more expensive than any of this. And it's always a matter of, is it worth it? And my work will be worth it to you if you're in a place where you know what you need and what you want. I realize I go places that are not popular, that are not suitable for ordinary everyday conversation, and that is the whole point. The whole point of doing any form of deeper work is to go where it is somewhat taboo to go, and we'll get into that in the second portion of this reading when I talk about the Capricorn new moon chart and the family Hunger Game pattern, where the new moon takes place today at 5:36 p.m. Eastern Time. That said, these are highly accessible readings. You do not need any technical knowledge or technical skills. And I think that the best thing is I offer them in both audio and in written format. Everyone who gets any of these readings is getting both audio and written. They're not available separately. They are different but complementary readings. With the audio, I took the approach of, okay, I'm going to explain what I did in the written and fill in the blanks and have room to cover any afterthoughts that I did not get to, even in the 9,000 word Pisces reading, which was tremendous fun, by the way. I mean, it takes a little time to get warmed up doing these. And to get warmed up, I made sure that I didn't warm up on the Aries reading. That has happened many years. In this case, my warm-up was a 60-page ebook that will explain, we're not there yet, We are not in 2025 yet. We are not in the spring of 2025 yet. I feel very confident saying, you will see what I meant when we get there. That what happened in the spring of 24 was just some warm-up. And then all the antics in the summer, in the late summer of 24, warm-up. We're going into a time like no other. And I think we need preparation for that. We need context. And so anyway, I started these readings with what I thought was going to be an outline, and it turned out to be a highly elaborated outline going through all the basic stuff and describing it. Now, here's a secret that's not really a secret. Personally, I find most astrology writing to be completely incomprehensible and boring. Now, I know a lot about astrology. There are things, I can make a list of the things that I don't have real experience in, but it's a fairly short list, and a lot of it's like stuff that would have been, relevant like in 1800 or before. I read stuff, and the astrobabble in some of these articles, just to me, is I don't even want to do the work to put it back together. Why my astrology works so well and works the way it does is I'm a journalist. As a journalist, I'm trained to approach every article as if the person reading has never heard of the subject once. That's the actual basic form of journalism, is you first reference everything that needs to be first referenced. You start with a clear lead, and you build the situation up, you explain what's going on, and then you go deeper into the background. So journalism is supposed to be written for ordinary people. Pro tip, most of what you see on Substack or even CNN, New York Times, most of that is not... Some of the newspapers are trying. But they overshoot. Things are way too complicated. There's too many assumptions being made about what the reader knows and doesn't know. And so I come in from a standpoint of assuming that you don't necessarily know very much. And therefore, the entire game of the writing, if you could look at it that way, is how to make these ideas accessible and how to frame them into context. So as a part of that, there's quite a bit of context building and metaphors. A lot of the Pisces reading is about a train station that was torn down in New York City in 1963 because that was the best metaphor. It was better than it was a secondary metaphor to Pluto in Capricorn. But to me, the story of the train station told the story of what I was trying to say in the reading about what had happened to the worlds of Pisces people as they watched all of this common space and public space and friendships, their concept of friendship, basically be dismantled. And we've all been through this really strange, terrible dismantling of known reality and what used to be our lives, owing to Pluto in Capricorn, which is now over, and we're into Pluto in Aquarius. And so if these things make you meekly curious, check it out. We're about to publish a set of previews, which will give the first 3 pages of the written readings and the first 7 minutes or so of the audio readings to bring it all in a little bit closer. Okay, so that is my kind of summary of what I've just accomplished. I started this, I think, really the readings actually sat down to write on a Monday morning. I think that was like September 30th or something like that. And incredibly wrapped up early. And I know how I did this. I have spent the last 18 months radically simplifying my life, simplifying the workflow at Planet Waves, moving on from dysfunctional people who were eating my time and money, and the result was I had time to do the best annual I've ever done and come in not just on time, but come in early. All right, this is Kristen Williams, and this piece is called Sitting Still. So today, the Capricorn new moon happens. This is the last new moon of the lunar year. The Chinese New Year is 1 month from today, one lunar month from today. I think we begin the year of the snake. So this is the last new moon in the year of the dragon, and I believe this is the year of the year of the green dragon. The year your old Uncle Eric was born, back in 1964. Oh, the Beatles came, and the World Fair happened. They took me as a very little baby. I swear I have memories of the 1964 World Fair. Isn't that ridiculous? I was like 6 months old. But how do I know that? Well, I found on Amazon a propaganda film about the 1964 World's Fair. You know, one of these like newsreels about how wonderful it's going to be. And the plot of the film is these two boys, wearing like suits and ties, almost dressed like Bourbons. But no, they're just adorable guys. And they spot some pretty girls, eating in a cafe. And they're going to try to follow them and catch up with them. And the whole plot of the film is these boys, maybe about like 16 years old, trying to catch up with these two very pretty young ladies. And in the process, you're taken all the way through the various scenes and scenarios of the World's Fair that was held in Flushing Meadow Park in Queens. And I had one of the strangest ever deja vus of my life at watching this video. The scenes almost all seemed familiar, but you don't really remember that much in the fog of being, I was born in March, April, May, June, July. I guess that took me like in August or July. You don't remember much in the fog of being 6 months old, but it was so intense. I wrote to my father in the middle of the night and said, "Dad, you're not going to believe this," but I think I remember what it was like being at the New York World's Fair. Anyway, apropos of 1964 and the year of the Green Dragon, so today we have the Capricorn new moon. And if you were looking at this chart using just the conventional planets, if you were just using the 8 planets, not even counting Pluto, which doesn't really factor much into today's event, there wouldn't be much going on. There's a loose aspect to Saturn. There's really no aspect to Uranus, no aspect to Jupiter, no special aspect to Mars, nothing to Neptune. It would just be this like new moon floating around in early Capricorn. Like, okay, that's nice. Happy new moon. I'll set some intentions, and what else do you do on the go out? Go out. I mean, Sally Brompton in the Pisces horoscope said, hey, go out and have some fun with your friends tonight. Why did you say that? Because Capricorn's the 11th house of Pisces. Go out and have fun with your friends. So she's the New York Post horoscope writer, the one that I love the most. So if you're not looking at the minor planets, by which I do not mean asteroids, I mean the minor planets, centaurs and planets out in the realm of Pluto, of which there are many, and which I read maybe about 10 or 15, and the centaurs. If you didn't read those, you wouldn't get any special message from this moon that I can discern, like something specific where you could say something perhaps a little meaningful. Perhaps it might get under people's skin a little bit, as I may do. So the first thing I noticed in this new moon is that it's conjunct Pholus. By conjunct, I mean, exactly in the degree of the second centaur planet Pholus. This is the one with the degree image. It's 10 Capricorn, the albatross eating from the hand of a sailor. I had to do some research on albatrosses last week. I didn't realize they can have an 11-foot wingspan. The adults span from 8 feet to 11 feet. That means that there's not a big difference between the albatross eating from someone's hand or eating their hand. They could pick you up and fly away with you. They could bite your hand off like that, like eating an insect, like a seagull picks up a piece of bread. This is a very, very large bird. The symbol of the albatross eating from the hand of a sailor is a powerful symbol of transcending fear. And it is a symbol of transcending fear here in a world that is completely obsessed with fear. So maybe if you use the Sabian symbols, you had nothing else to go by. That might be something you might say to your audience, right? To your audience. So meanwhile, it turns out this thing is conjunct Pholus, and that when there's a lunation that is exactly conjunct a planet of any kind, especially high power, high potency little critter like Pholus, that's worth paying attention to. So what this talks about straight away is an acceleration. Pholus releases compressed energy. It's like releasing compressed gas from a canister. It opens the flow, and there's no putting the shaving cream back in the can or the champagne back in the bottle, the toothpaste back in the tube. And unlike Chiron, the action of Pholus is fast and immediate. So my concern about this has been, we're about to see an acceleration in the pace of events. Second concept of Pholus is small cause, big effect. For example, one thing leads to another, or someone has one too many beers at a party, and then they're pulled over because it's party night, and then they blow a 1-0, which used to be legal, and then suddenly they're in a world of legal complications because a 1-0 is no longer legal. And then God knows what's in the car. Small cause, a beer, big effect, complete rearrangement of one's life and legal reputation. Or, in the case of the article that I sent out this morning, homeopathy. Homeopathy is the perfect example of the small cause and the big effect. I ended up getting back into homeopathy this week because I started to come down with some kind of chest issue that was affecting my breathing on Monday, right after the weather snapped and got very cold and dry upstate. This sometimes happens not every year, but I am sensitive to the sudden cold, dry external air, but then also I'm not a big lover of forced air heating systems, and that happens to be what I've got in both my apartment and my office. So I was having a response to the air quality, and I also knew that I had to get through the week. By Monday evening, when I started to feel this happening, I only had 2 of the 12 readings done, and there was no way, if I could avoid it, I was going to delay the whole project a week when I had gotten everything done early up till that point. So I have a skill, which is I am a modestly well-trained and practiced homeopath. And I wrote an article over the weekend about how it was that I was able to basically pull myself through it. I didn't list my entire protocol, ginger and so forth, and baths and things like this. But I basically was reawakened by necessity to the sheer beauty and perfection of homeopathy. The small cause, I was taking coffea cruda, which is basically coffee tincture, fresh coffee tincture, diluted 100 times by 30 times. And that's your basic 30C homeopathic remedy. So I used homeopathy to help me breathe, to deal with the pain of the cough, and then with a kind of evolved into an asthmatic condition at night, and then coffea cruda to be able to sleep better. And one week later, I'm feeling great. No cough medicine involved in that. It doesn't work. So I thought, all right, well, why not invite people into homeopathy and do it on the day of the Capricorn new moon, because it's conjunct Pholus, which is the perfect homeopathic concept. However, that's all very nice. This new moon takes place right in what I've been calling the Family Hunger Game cluster. The Family Hunger Game cluster basically is describing the problems of our families and the way that this legacy has come down through to each one of us and then manifests collectively on a cultural level. It affects the whole society. And that is one of the reasons why we have the problems that we have in our society, and why it would seem that in my short time on the planet, I haven't seen anything get better except the quality of technology. That's really the only thing. Frankly, I love walking into an art supply store and being able to get any kind of material that I want, or going into the local hardware store and I have my choice of 10 different epoxies. It's wonderful. But that's it. The people are not happier. Our relationships are not better. Our food is not more pure. We don't have more time. As a society, we're not more relaxed. We have better technology, to which most of us end up becoming slaves. Okay, and also, by the way, Pholus represents alcohol-related material. It is just part of the legacy of Pholus to have the current moment colored by alcohol that goes back to the great-grandparents' generation. And usually that means emotional inaccessibility. That's really the bottom line with alcohol. Violence is also a problem, various shades of violence, neglect, malnutrition, and all of that, brain damage caused by the stuff. But I think the emotional influence of alcohol is distancing from and not addressing the emotional reality of children, by whom I mean us. That the alcohol that was in your environment as a children, that's a chef. from South Park, even when he was talking to one of the kids, there's this subtle joke. He would always call them children, even though it was just one of them. As children, the alcohol was unlikely. Maybe there's some special people who were like, drinking nitrate at 8 years old. But for the most part, we were getting it by osmosis from our parents and grandparents. My mother is kind of messed up, and her father kind of was chugging wine all the time. Out of a Gallo sangria, Gallo, whatever, 1 gallon jug in the closet. Okay, so the family Hunger Game cluster today is squared up at exactly 10 degrees, and the pattern includes Pholus, Moon, Sun, Quaoar. I've decided I'm going to pronounce it like that because I like it better. And I haven't gotten a single letter telling me how to pronounce the word Quaoar from the Tongva language, but Quaoar sounds fun. It's easier to say than Quaoar. So Quaoar, family back to the origins of the tribe, 10 cap. Pholus, family legacy, 3 generations plus you back. Moon, Sun, highlighting event. And Ixion and Cupido are still there, but they're a little bit out of the picture now. Let's just focus on right exactly what's in that 10th degree of the signs. So it would seem that this whole thing comes under focus right now. And what is interesting is that extrinsic to the Hunger Games group, where the red bar is, the red line is painted, which basically spans from, it dips into around the location of the galactic center out to Pallas Athene. But if you can look at the chart, please, and look at all those things with a 9 next to them, which means 10, because anything over 9.01 is 10th degree. And this whole family Hunger Game pattern is traveling with a point called Salacia. Outer planet, not quite out as far, further out than Pluto. Salacia, I think, is, let's see, hold on, orbit of Salacia. 276, so 276.52 years, 101,000 days it takes Salacia to go around the sun. Pluto's 248, so it's slower than Pluto. So these things, when they're slow like that, they're deep forces in the psyche. Their journey through a sign is a chance to learn something. And it happens that Pholus, Quaoar, and Salacia are basically going to be traveling in a perpetual square that lasts at least another 10 years. It's exact all the way out to the end of Aries and Capricorn. Salacia's in Aries, and Pholus and Quaoar are in Capricorn. All right. What is Salacia? Salacia brings in the sexual element into the scenario. The sexual element is very important because there's so much infusion of sexual theme and content into these deep family issues that not only is there no escaping it, when you try to escape it, you only end up getting dragged in deeper into the misery that this is all about. And, there may be people who do not understand why I so consistently bring up matters of sexuality, sexual healing, and the need for us to learn how to be truthful and relate to one another in plain talk about our sexual feelings. I found having my love-hate lifetime relationship with the New York Times, even though they've been very good to me, I'm always grateful for that. I'm time certified at several different things, including being an astrologer. They had a feature out of like Norway or something, so it had to have subtitles. The difficult conversation to have with your family, with a daughter asking her mother about, a daughter asking her parents about which sex positions she likes, son asking his father about how he feels about his open relationship and how he feels about masturbation. Thought, wow, this is refreshing. This sounds like Planet Waves, only it's right on the front page of the New York Times. 25 years later, we're a little ahead of the curve. But this is it's a special thing, right? And who saw this, right? Who did you see this? Who saw this? The sex discussion is avoided. We can talk about gangrene. We can talk about blowing up Palestinian children. We can talk about shit. We can talk about dental work. We can talk about murder and mayhem in the streets. We can talk about money. We can talk about Trump. We can talk about people getting terrible diseases and dying. We can talk about baseball, football, not so much soccer, but sports. Oh, great. Talk about sports. We can talk about anything, but not sex. Can't have a conversation about sex. Why is that? And by sex, I do not mean trauma. I mean like this super cute young woman asking her mom if she likes to talk dirty. That was great. That was worth the price of my entire New York Times subscription for the year. Salacia represents the sex that's appropriate for you. This is not about identifying as anything. This is about the actual sex that's appropriate for you. And it is very unlikely to be what you're actually doing. It's very unlikely to be what you can actually have with your partner. This is a product of the conversation not happening. This is a product of the fact that people are largely whenever I use the word incapable, I feel my teacher Joe tapping me on the shoulder. No, they're capable. It's a question of willing. Willing to have the conversation out of embarrassment, out of the fear of what Pandora's box it's going to open. You're talking about sex. It's like, when you have an honest conversation about how you feel, what you've done, and what you want, right? That's just my definition of a conversation about sex. How you feel, what you've done, and what you want. Just like that. Well, that might include wanting to eat the ass of the very cute sushi waitress downstairs at the restaurant. God damn, she's hot. Who can you say that to? Well, you say it at work. Who are you going to? You'd say it to your wife? No, you're not going to say it to your wife. But you know what? If you can't say it to your wife, she might not be your wife. Look, maybe I'm a little weird, but I want to know the content of, if I have a lover, I want to know the content of their mind. What's up? How do you feel? What do you want? How do you do? How do you like that? Who are you attracted to? I don't assume someone's only attracted to me. That's ridiculous. We're all attracted to people all over the place. I don't know. To me, people are getting kind of ugly. I've never felt less attracted to people, but traditionally, historically, I've experienced lavish attractions and appreciations for people. I think this is commonplace, but it is completely suppressed. It is taboo. It is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And we're talking about the sex that's appropriate, not the horror story drama. Now, it's important to be able to go there, but there's very little in the way of containment available for how to have that conversation. We could have that containment. It would take maturity. It would take knowing oneself. This, by the way, is the problem. There's several problems with the discussion of sex and therapy. one of the problems is, A, the therapists are afraid of getting sued because if the topic of sex comes up, then somebody could say, well, he was really coming on to me. He asked an honest question, but that was meant to elicit some kind of prurient response, and it wasn't really therapeutic and all of that. Joe used to ask every woman client about her first experience of menstruation. Standard question. About her first menstruation. Well, not everyone liked this. It's very, very helpful information. I'm not doing therapy. I don't need to ask that every time, but when it has come up, it has been very helpful information. All you ladies should tell the story. Write it down so you don't have to necessarily say it. Then once you've written it down, it's easier to say it. And hang it up on the wall. My first period. My mother got her first period on Flag Day. I don't know what year it was, but I know that it was on June 14th, and I do not know the details. But look, Stephen King got it right when he, the first scene in Carrie is Carrie gets her period and she doesn't know what's happening. That is a major, major betrayal by mother. If you're a woman, what did your mother tell you? Basic stuff like this. So once we're past like what's appropriate or what you want, what you've done, how you feel and what you want, then comes more detailed discussion of the trouble spots. But those conversations, to be helpful, there has to be a friendly and loving and perhaps pleasurable element to it. Otherwise, they're not going to go well. The conversations are not going to go well. But most people, I was talking about why therapists avoid the subject. A, they're afraid to get sued. B, they don't know anything. I challenge you, if you're a therapist, write to me. Let's talk about sex. Let's find out how much you actually know about sex. Go for it. This is not a throwdown or a showdown. I want to find out what you actually know, and I'll help you figure out how much you know and how much you don't know. Most people think they're fucking experts. I put out a general open offer a number of times recently. Has anyone read a book about sex? By which I don't mean sexual pathology. One person wrote to me and said, yes, The Joy of Sex by Alex Comfort. I said, yes, that book was on my bookshelf. My mother left sex books on the bookshelves. That's one of the ways that my mother communicated sex education to me. So someone had read, she was about my vintage, had read The Joy of Sex by Alex Comfort. Please get that book. It is wonderful. It is pencil drawings. It is minimal text. I personally am a fan of the first edition from the early 1970s with the kind of hippie-ish looking people and the natural beard on the guy, pubic hair on the woman, and armpit hair and all that. They don't look like gorillas. They look like human beings, natural human beings. This book is fantastic, and you can show it to your children. Okay, and I said, and I also was deeply influenced by the Height Report by Sherry Height, which was a nationwide survey of female sexual preferences. This book was mind-blowing. You can probably pick it up on like any of these used book sites for 50 cents. It's like 500 pages. It's one of the greatest books ever written, the Height Report. And it's long-form survey responses. What do you like? What have you done? And it sorts them out by women's experiences of other women, women's experiences of other men, women's experiences on their own, and so forth. But this is one response. Now, this tells me one of two things. Number one, people haven't read anything. Second, they're afraid to answer. Pretty much we're in the same situation in either case. So our knowledge of sex is A, so limited that we don't even know what's appropriate for us. And B, if you haven't caught on, I've been on a rampage exposing the fraud of feminism that has strived to turn all men into rapists. Gentlemen, are you sick of this yet? This is a real question. Write to me your answer, efc@planetwaves.net. Are you sick of being accused of being a rapist or a potential rapist when you are no such thing? Yes or no? I think all men are completely fed up with this. It's coming from one source. Okay. So this is Quaoar, Pholus, Moon, Sun, Square Salacia. Appropriate sexuality. Salacious trine Varuna. Now, I don't talk about Varuna very much. It goes into every chart. Pick up any chart I've cast where I've got my handwritten notes. Look in Leo, and you'll see the little VA, a little symbol, which is a combination of a V and an A. That's Varuna. I don't miss it. I've been studying Varuna since it was discovered in 2000. It was considered a very important discovery. It was discovered in 2000 and given minor planet number 20,000. 20,000 Varuna. That's how you can tell the astronomers think a planet's important when they give it one of those honorific numbers. They were reserving 10,000 for Pluto. And somebody didn't want, they were like too proud to concede that Pluto might be designated a minor planet, which it was. Now it's 134340 Pluto. Even though it was discovered in 1930, it gets 134340 Pluto. So Varuna, 20,000 Varuna. What's this one about? Something like leveling the playing field, leveling the game. The problem with sex is that when we put the truth out in front of us, you could have a dock worker, you could have a sex worker, you could have the milkman, you could have the candlestick maker, you could have a billionaire, you could have your mother and your father and your little sister, and it would all basically be the same kind of thing that would come out. And except if in extraordinary cases of trauma, extraordinary cases of like the guy who married 5 times and then had 10 of the live-ins. So there's a little bit of a different story, but for the most part, what a very wide diversity of people, including from different sexual orientations, would put out on the table would all be approximately the same thing. If you shift the subject to masturbation, you're going to have basically the same conversation. Which is why the LGBTQ community does not want to touch the issue of masturbation, because it completely levels the entire discussion. It puts everyone on the same level. And the entire politicization of sex by category and defining sex as some kind of a power trip and nothing else it evaporates with an honest conversation about masturbation and people's ability to ask one another's questions and, lo and behold, do it together. Your old astrologers had a lot of different interesting, fun sexual experiences. Some of the most astounding, like transcendental sexual experiences have involved group masturbation experiences. A couple in California, one down the city at a club no longer extant called Decadence, where they had once a month they had masturbation night, and it was cheap. It was like $20 to get in rather than the usual $100 to get in, and all the cool people would come because they weren't the ones who were involved in like image and swinging and all that. And singles could come also very comfortably, obviously. And there were a couple of those that were just so beautiful. And you would think, how, wanking together? Well, don't knock it till you tried it. And it does help to have somebody experienced there to hold these bays open. So, the equalizer. Varuna. That's apropos of that subject. And it is right in the aspect pattern. It is trine Salacia and quincunx moon sun Pholus Quaoar. The other thing about Varuna, and I'll end on this note, is it is about the keeping of contracts and commitments. We need to learn how to do this. But the first contract and commitment needs to be honesty about who you are, what you want, what you've done. And not be so hung up about this. And not have a setup for a big jealousy drama to go on. Jealousy is its own subject, should be handled as its own subject. It requires some sensitivity, but I will link to an article called Jealousy and the Abyss from the Planet Wave Substack version of this page, which is an open page with the page of the family with the kids staring at me, looking at me real weird. Jealousy and the Abyss. One of the most important articles written about jealousy, which gets underneath the dark side of jealousy. I have a whole other theory, which is complementary to Panel Rock's theory of compersion and people's tropism, their attraction to the pleasure of others as a perfectly healthy impulse. This is the healthy impulse encrypted deep inside what we call porno, is the true appreciation of the pleasure of others. And if you are experiencing some form of sexual love, I'll just put it this way, it will be a lot better when you have, by better, I mean really better, an appreciation of your partner's or your friend's pleasure as deep experiences of surrender, as apart from anything involving you, having it be all about them. And I would say this falls generally under the rubric of commitment and keeping commitments. Okay. This has been very exciting. It's not Planet Waves FM, not Time for Studio, String Out for Studio. There will be a Planet Waves FM, if all goes well, on New Year's Eve. My voice seems to be doing fine, but I am going to give it a rest between now and then. And this will be a music-centered special. It's not going to be a heavy-duty issues-centered special. There are certainly plenty of issues and pathology that we can talk about, but not really necessary. We are going deeper now into a strange and unknown territory with little other than astrology and good vibes to guide us. Signing off on the 30th from Kingston, New York at 12:47 p.m. Lots of love. Bye for now.